What's going on, guys? It's Seraphia, and today we're going to start a series I'm going to call I Read Every Ability So You Don't Have to. We're going to go through every Vanguard and Marvel rivals so that you can better understand their abilities, how to play them, and how to play against them. Drop a follow for more content like this, and let's go. Let's read them. Alright, so let's get right into it. If you go to marvelrivals.com/hero/index, they actually have a pretty specific breakdown of every character, their role, and their in-depth stats. So as you get patches in this game, you'll see those numbers updated, and you'll be able to come here and check out all those numbers in detail. Not 100% full detail, but there's a good amount of information here, so I highly recommend. Definitely read this, watch this video on double speed, whatever you got to do, get some information in you, and it really will improve your gameplay a ton by really knowing what these characters are capable of. So we'll start with Captain America. He's going to be the first of our Vanguards. His base stats here, this also shows their health, 650 for cap, 6 meters a second for move speed, so each character also has their own assigned base move speed. His basic attack is going to get up close to strike enemies. Landing with second hit enables a shield throw that can ricochet 4 times. So when you hit that first hit, and you get a second one, that third hit will be able to lock on, because down here it'll show you that special effect automatically targets enemies near the crosshair, which is great. So you don't have to aim, punch them up close a couple times, get to throw that shield, it'll bounce off of other enemies. He has his Q, which is his freedom charge. Shield held high, carve a path forward, granting both himself and allies along the path continuous bonus health and movement boosts. Using Living Legend or Leading Dash while this ability is active can launch up enemies. So you're going to be able to really provide your team and yourself with a big boost of health and movement speed here, while also adding some additional CC to his normal skills. His shift is that Leading Dash. It gives him that boosted movement speed, and he can jump high in the air. That is channeled, and so you can pretty much just turn that on and off. It gives me a 33% movement speed boost. I'm not going to go really into all the details on all of these, but definitely check them out if you want to know more about the characters. There's a lot to go through. Hurl the energy charge shield to strike enemies in a path is his E. His secondary is that vibranium energy saw. It sounds like it does a lot more damage than it actually does, but that is his basic shield toss that bounces between your enemies. Liberty Rush is his charge forward. That's going to be his shield charge for you Marvel vs. Capcom fans. Raise the shield, charge forward. Very simple, you understand that. Slam down onto the targeted area, launching at enemies. This is his Super Soldier Slam. That is if you jump into the air using your Leading Dash, or if you jump off of a high point, or get knocked up into the air, you can slam down and launch up your enemies, which will kind of disrupt them. Living Legend is going to raise the shield. That is his block. Deflect incoming projectiles, sending them ricocheting in random directions. So not only does this absorb damage, it will also send that. It's not like if you've played Overwatch or if you've used Hawkeye, that more direct deflect. It's not that. It kind of bounces things randomly. And so the ricochet damage fall off is 50%. So like if you manage to ricochet an Iron Man ult or something of that, you could still do some work. It's random. So you have to get lucky. He also has some team abilities using the Thor Force from Thor. It doesn't give him a lot of extra damage, but it is something he needs. He needs damage badly, so we take anything we get. That gives him his little electrifying enhancement. Storm can also use Thor Force. Captain America gains a movement speed boost, and his shield is imbued with thunder power, like shooting nearby enemies. So he pops this Thor Force, you can get up in there, and he'll just kind of gradually damage enemies as you are near them. I think that lasts for a couple of seconds. Yeah, 6 seconds is actually a pretty long duration, so most of your engagement, you'll do that little extra damage. Bounce over to our next hero. Unfortunately, they don't have them labeled by role. That would be a little quicker. Next up, we have Doctor Strange. His abilities here. He has 650 health and 6 MS move speed, same as Captain America. Normal attack goes the Daggers of Danok. Cast Daggers of Danok forward. They kind of make this rotating round delayed hit. They have 5 projectiles in that, and so you shoot at one space, and each of those projectiles kind of rotates to hit that space. You have your Eye of Agamotto, which this is going to be his ult, where he separates nearby enemy souls from their bodies. Damage dealt to these souls is transferred to their physical bodies. Again, similar to Hawkeye's ult, you give those after images. You can deal damage to the souls. So even if you don't hit their physical body, you can hit this soul and it will do damage to them. That soul separation lasts 3 seconds. Big ult, big game-changing ult. He has his Cloak of Levitation on shift that allows him to fly up into the air, and he can float for a couple seconds there. His E is Maelstrom of Madness. Release dark magic to deal damage to nearby enemies. This is going to do more damage based on the dark magic buildup you have. We'll go over that during his passive. But the more damage you deal, you get dark magic. If you reach 100, you end up... We'll go over that. But it does more damage based on your dark magic buildup. The F is the Pentagram of Farala. Excuse me. Open portals between two locations. Everyone has been dunked into the abyss by either an enemy Strange or their team Strange at this point. You should be at least aware to look out for these, because they can either send you into the abyss or they can spawn the enemy team right behind you. They can drop some ults. Make sure to be aware of these pentagram portals. The Shield of the Seraphim is his right click. Secondary is that big protective round barrier that absorbs damage. It's pretty self-explanatory. Big shield. His passive, as explaining earlier with Maelstrom of Madness, that affects his E. Dark magic accumulates with every hit on an enemy. If dark magic peaks for too long, Doctor Strange will be cursed with anti-heal. So this, if you're playing Strange or playing against him, very, very important to keep note of his passive. I'm not fully aware. I think there is, like, he definitely has an indicator on his back. I don't know if you can see that from his front. I need to play more and really keep an eye on that. But comment if you know. Anyway, if he peaks for too long, if you have 100 dark magic and you don't release it using that E Maelstrom of Madness to do damage, you will have a curse of anti-heal for 2 seconds, meaning your healers cannot heal you. You cannot pick up medkits. You can, actually, so it'll pick it up and not heal you, which is a huge detriment. So keep an eye on your passive levels. Keep an eye on the enemy passive levels if you can. That could be the time to take out Strange. He also applies Gamma Maelstrom from Hulk, which is pretty cool because it gives him an extra little bit of damage. Instead of each point of dark magic dealing 1.3 damage, he actually deals 1.4 damage. So he gets a little extra, and he does not get the anti-heal if you peak dark magic. So you can hold your dark magic as long as you want, because it's been converted to this Gamma upgrade, which is really nice. Next up, we have Groot, everybody's favorite wall tank. If you've played Mei in Overwatch, you know the pain of having a Mei wall in front of you. Well, now you can experience that pain several-fold, since he has so many walls. So, to start off, he has his Vine Strike. Works very similar to... it kind of works similar to Venom's attack, except for instead of multiple hits, it's just a single Vine Strike, just dead in. It's pretty impactful, honestly. It does some solid damage. It does 70. It doesn't crit, unfortunately. I believe it did crit in the beta, which that's news to me. That's odd. But they did update it. His ultimate here is Strangling Prison. I'm sure you've been caught by this before. It fires a massive vine cluster that pulls nearby enemies to its center and imprisons them. So it gives that big single cast projectile, kind of a big AoE field, and it will lock down everything in there for 3.5 seconds. Very, very strong ult. So he has 2 different kinds of walls. This is really important to know because they do have different appearances. The Thorn Lash wall will appear, of course, more thorny. Targets the location, grow a Thorn Lash wall. When awakened, it strikes nearby enemies attacked by Groot and his allies. We'll cover the awakening in the passive below. He has the Ironwood wall. That is going to be the very, the more obvious, like, tanking wall. That one is going to have a lot more health. It has 700 health. It's basically an entire Groot in itself. Speaking of which, we did not go over, he has 700 health, so he has a little more than the other 2 tanks we talked about earlier. And even more with Rocket Raccoon. He also gets his Spore Bomb. Excuse me, we'll back up. This one, nearby allies grant bonus health. So damage dealt by Groot and nearby allies grant Groot health. So if you are around this wall while it's awakened, and there's damage being dealt by your team and nearby allies, they will give Groot extra shields. Spore Bomb is his right click. Throw an explosive Spore Bomb that splits into multiple small explosive spores. That one relatively simple. It's a nice little single cast projectile bomb. It has like a slight delay to it, and it explodes into multiple spores. Because the projectile itself doesn't do damage, the spore bomb deals 55 damage when it explodes, and each spore does 10 damage. So you can do technically a total of about 115 damage there because there are 6 little spores. Not a bad chunk of damage from a tank. Flora Colossus, wooden walls near Groot will awaken. So this is what we're talking about with his shift and his E. The Thornlash wall and Ironwood wall will awaken and have those effects. Right click while building a wooden wall to continue building additional walls. So you can just kind of keep going with your walls if you have multiples stacked up. This is a passive, and so if he's near them, they will do that. And basically, the Thornlash wall, if awakened, it strikes nearby enemies attacked by Groot and his allies. So if an enemy is near a Thornlash wall and Groot hits them, that wall will also hit them. It does 60 damage every 0.5 seconds. It is considerable. If somebody's standing near that wall, make use of it. Ironwood wall, also, when awakened, if the enemies are being damaged by Groot and nearby allies, you're getting that Groot bonus health. So your Groot will get more and more tanky the more damage they hit. And it gives an additional 40 bonus health per second. So it kind of has a nice continuous heal of bonus health for your Groot. But also keep in mind, enemy Groots, same thing. If they have a wall, you kind of want to fight them away from their walls or get rid of that wall if at all possible. He also has a little bit of a melee thing, which is cool because he has a little 3-strike combo. They reach 3 and 4 meters. They have a little bit of range, and he can launch up enemies with that third hit of his combo. And then the passive for Groot. This is something I would love to research. I haven't had both on a team yet. I think you can only get one friendly shoulder, and I think it's just while they're on the shoulder. But it does give him 150 max health. So if you work all this together, Groot can have his base 700. He can have 150 from his shoulder passive. Have Jeff or Rocket on your shoulder. You have 850. And then with the Flora Colossus passive and Ironwood wall, you can have up to 1100 health. Groot can be an absolute monster and just unkillable if you really integrate all these passives and team-ups to his benefit. Hulk is fun. Hulk's a bit of a dive tank, a bit of a bruiser at the same time. He has a lot of longevity to him. I've heard a lot of people saying Hulk's not very good. I do enjoy Hulk. I think Hulk's fine. I don't think he suffers too much in the current state of the game, but there are better tanks that do his job. So, base stats, Banner has 200 health, Hulk has 650, and then Monster Hulk has 1400. We have a lot to go over here. He has the heavy blow, swing fist towards, or forward to punch enemies. That's, punch. Hulk smash. Hulk smash is also his ultimate. Unleash stored gamma energy, transforming into that Monster Hulk. We'll go over all of Monster Hulk after that. Indestructible guard. This shield, if you are aware of Overwatch 2 and you played Zarya, similar idea. Kind of how Magneto also has this shield. He gives it in an AoE. It is not single target, and so anybody around him gets this AoE, and damage done to this shield actually does convert into gamma energy, which allows Hulk to ult faster. Radioactive lockdown. Emit gamma energy to radiate enemies and render them immobilized. Render them immobile and immune to all ability effects. Using heavy blow or gamma burst will prematurely remove this status. This is very important. So, radioactive lockdown can either be used to literally lock down someone for 2 seconds. No one can hurt them. They can't do anything. But you can also interrupt with lockdown. Interrupt an ultimate. It immediately shuts them out of it. And then you can use your gamma burst or your heavy blow to immediately remove the status. So keep this in mind. This can be detrimental or beneficial. If you want to remove that status and do some damage to them immediately, you can, using either click on Hulk. He also has his incredible leap. Hold space, hold jump. You jump farther, you get that. You can also knock a flying enemy to the ground. So if there's an Iron Man up in the sky, you can incredible leap into him. Very, very useful if you can get that timing down. And you also have Gamma Burst, which is pretty simple. Single cast projectile, pierce through enemies. That's just his thunderclap, as I'd call it. and it just shoots forth a nice beam of damage. His Gamma Boost we talked about applies to both Doctor Strange and Iron Man, both very, very good. I'd always recommend if you have either of them and you like Hulk, play him. He's very good with the team-up passes, and of course you have the Gamma Fastball with Wolverine, if your Wolverine is willing to let you yeet him across the map. Also very useful to play in a team. Monster Hulk. So, if you ult as Hulk, you get that 1400 base health. You have a stronger attack that's going to launch up enemies. It basically just gives you a considerable boost to all of your abilities. And World Breaker, which allows you to use your ultimate again to grab somebody in front of you and smash them around with a 30% damage reduction. So you can just kind of sit there, grab a squishy, grab the Jeff that just threw your whole team into the abyss, and give him a good wallop. Magneto, the Master of Magnetism. Magneto has 650 health. He has a 6 MS move speed. It seems that most of the tanks are that 6 speed. I think that's about the base move speed for a lot of characters. And his Iron Ring charging speed is 4 seconds per charge, or it obviously charges faster if you deflect projectiles. He has Iron Volley, which is his primary attack. That is going to fire a volley of magnetic orbs forward. The range of the explosion increases based on the distance flown. So the farther you shoot it, the bigger the explosion is. So it does damage in a larger AoE the farther away your target is. His ultimate is Meteor M. That is just flying in the air, grabbing a bunch of metal, and throwing it at your enemies. The longer you're in the air, I believe it... Did they change that? Okay, no. So each point of energy adds an extra 3 points of damage to the spell field, with damage reducing to 50% at a distance of 6 meters from the center. But, end of the day, you go in the air, you throw a big ball of metal, and you hopefully kill something. It doesn't do a tremendous amount of damage, but it feels like it does more damage than the beta. You have Metallic Curtain, which is your shield. That is self-explanatory. It blocks all incoming projectiles. Metal Bulwark and Iron Bulwark. So these are the same thing. Only difference is your E will put it on an ally, and your F will put it on yourself. They are on the same shared cooldown, so you have to keep that in mind, i.e. Zarya from Overwatch. If you played her, that's how that works. You get one. Actually, you get two now. You used to get one. And you put one on your ally if you're in the back, or you put one on yourself if you're in the front. Mag Cannon. Convert the iron rings on Magneto's back into a mag cannon. This does tremendous damage. I thought it used to crit. Maybe I was mistaken, but it does not crit, but it does an additional amount of damage per ring you have on your back. So the more things you deflect and the longer you wait, you have more rings on your back. Use that mag cannon and do a ton of damage. You can also fall slowly. He does not have his own ascending ability, so you can really only float. There's not really any team members other than Cloak and Dagger right now that can allow you to jump like that, to jump high enough to float. But you can kind of, use some verticality of the maps and use that elevation to your advantage by floating. You also get the Metallic Fusion, which grants, if you have Wanda on your team, Scarlet Witch, you can use that Great Sword, and that Great Sword is nasty. It lets you use your basic ability as that sword, doing a ton of damage from any distance, and that's one of my favorite things about Magneto. I almost don't like playing him if you don't have a Scarlet Witch. We also have Peni Parker. Peni Parker is very, very interesting. She's not like a lot of characters in a lot of games I've played. She has 650 health and 6 move speed. The Cyberweb Cluster, launch forward a Cyberweb Cluster. It's just a rapid-fire delayed projectile that is accompanied by a spell field, which is cool. And then you also... so it does like a little... So what this says when in these stats, if this says accompanied by spell field, it has like a little AoE that it kind of also does damage. So it'll do 15 for the projectile and 15 for the spell field. Spider Sweeper is the ultimate. It's spider time. I'm sure you've heard that, because Peni is very, very popular right now, very strong. That allows you to really just run around as much as you want. You become invulnerable, and you can just repeatedly drop your webs, drop your mines, and just really make a mess of the battlefield and do a ton of damage while disrupting everything around you. The spider nest, generate a spider nest in a targeted area, periodically spawning spider drones and creating cyber webs. These little drones will create those webs, and in those webs, you get healing over time and a movement boost. This does not apply to anyone else, it is just you, so that is more why you're a tank than a support. But excess healing is also converted into bonus health. So staying in those webs makes her tremendously good on defense. You can create yourself a little corner of webs and constantly get healing and bonus health if you are full health. The Arachno Mine, very, very simple. Place a mine on the floor, somebody steps on it, it blows up. Cyber Wand, shoot a web strand that links to the targeted area or the cyber web. If stretched too far, it will trigger a pullback. So this is kind of a grappling hook, for a lack of a better term. It's a little funky. It does, in fact, like pull you back if you get pushed too far out of it. So if you're pushed by anything or you walk too far while attached to something, it will kind of yank you back a little bit. So these can be used to your advantage. It's a little funky to work with. I would highly recommend you doing some training mode on Cyberbond. It's a very fun little ability if you learn how to use it. She has Wall Crawl and the Cyber Web Snare, which allows you to immobilize enemies or creates a cyber web. So you can either use this to immediately hit an opponent and it will snare them. It does snare for only 0.7 seconds. But while they are trapped, you actually do get that benefit of the cyberweb. So you can use the cyberweb to have it on the floor, or if you have a target, you can still get that little bit of healing per bonus and the move speed bonus if you hit someone with it. And you can get armor expulsion if you have Venom on your team as Peni, which allows you to do that big burst of symbiote damage around you. So while everybody, like, she seems complicated because you have a lot of little things to place on the floor, it's not that bad. There's not that much to work with. It's just more like resource management. If you've played StarCraft, I'm sure you will be phenomenal playing Penny Parker. Thor is my personal favorite. I'm going to hype this guy up in the tier list that we have coming out. Or I have the tier list before this video. I don't know. But I've been one-tricking Thor. He has been carrying me through ranked. I really enjoy this character. I know I've given no opinion on other characters, but I've really enjoyed Thor so far. He's a nice solo queue pick because he has a lot of self-sustain, a lot of damage, a lot of bulk. So really, he's pretty safe to play if you're not real confident in your healers or your secondary tank. You can kind of do the job. So, his base stats, he is only 500 health, so he does seem squishier than other tanks, but we'll get into why he's okay with that. His basic attack, wield Mjolnir, strike enemies, smack with a hammer. Okay. When awakened, Thor can launch lightning arc waves to deal damage. This is really his bread and butter. That awakening is really, really strong. It also does grant him Thor Force. He gets 3 stacks of Thor Force, and a hit will restore that. His God of Thunder, generally probably one of the weaker parts of his kit. His ult has a lot of like scare tactic ability to it, to where, you know, it does good damage. It does 40 seconds, or yeah, the sustained spell field lasts for 0.5 seconds, dealing 40 damage. It's got a duration of 1.5 seconds, so that's 120 damage, 220 damage when you hit the floor. So it goes up in the air, crashes down after 1.5 seconds, does a bunch of damage. It's good to escape a little bit because you can kind of get some breathing room, come back down and do that damage. It's good at dispersing people off the point, kind of like Moon Knight's ult, things like that. But I wouldn't count on it for just a ton of damage. It can kill a squishy if they don't get out of it, but it's kind of slow. So once you get to higher ranks, it's not going to be that effective unless you really catch somebody off guard. Storm Surge, use this a lot. This is your bread and butter for getting in and out. It has a very low cooldown. Everything on his Thor Force cooldown is more or less shared. So you kind of charge your hammer, and you can fly forward, and you can pull enemies with you. This is really good to disrupt, good to get out, etc., etc. Good to pull people off of your squishies. It's phenomenal for that. And just give them a good beatdown. All of these abilities will cost 1 Thor Force. Lightning Realm is the only thing that doesn't, which is your E. Thor Force is restored based on the number of enemies hit. That is going to just be a big AoE, Thunder Shock, deal 40 damage, and it will immediately give back your Thor Force. So, your good combo, God of Thunder, Storm Surge in, Charge your hammer, fly in there, hit a hammer throw if you can. If it's not on cooldown, hit your lightning realm, restore everything, go into Awakening Rune. So this is what I was talking about. Consume Thor Force to enter Awakened State. This costs 3 Thor Force. It's your whole bar. It grants bonus health and enhances your Mjolnir Bash. So basically, you can dive in, pop this, and just go crazy with your basic attacks because now you have a really, really strong ranged attack instead of your melee. Then you have Hammer Throw. That is self-explanatory. Right-click, throws it out. Yeah, it actually doesn't have any additional effects. It just costs the Thor Force, and it's a good ranged bonk. It does 70 damage hitting somebody. And your Thor Force is your mana or your MP per se for this character because you have to kind of keep track of your stacks. Consume Thor Force to gain bonus health, so every time you use a Thor Force, you do get a little bit of bonus health. Landing a Mjolnir Bash on an enemy instantly recharges Thor Force. So that's why you can Storm Surge in, hit once, Awakening Rune immediately, and then after using all of that, you get a bunch of bonus health. You can then hit them a bunch of times, get all your Thor Force back, Hammer Throw out, Storm Surge out. Very, very strong combo-based character, and like I said, I have really enjoyed playing him. He also has a phenomenal synergy with Hela, because if he ends up dying, like Loki, Thor can immediately respawn if Hela gets a kill. So if he dives in, gets somebody low, Hela picks it up, you have no cooldown on your res. You do still go back to base, but you immediately respawn. So it's phenomenal synergy there. Gets Thor right back into the game. And Thor has decent mobility, so it doesn't take him too long to get back. I mean, he also has the Thor Force that he adds to Captain America and Storm. So, really, you could have a pretty solid team, other than Storm being a little underwhelming at the moment. She's still good. She benefits the team a lot. But that gets him an extra 100 max health if you have either Storm or Captain America. And then you get that extra respawn health percentage. You get that quick respawn if you have Hela. So if you have both Hela and like Storm or Hela and Captain America, Thor is really, really strong with those bonuses. Because it's a lot less detrimental if you end up dying on a dive. And last but certainly not least, we have Venom. Venom is also one of my favorites just because he's fun. I wouldn't say he's great right now, but he's a solid like B pick. Very, very good self-sustain. He's a dive tank, so if you don't have really good dedicated healers, he can suffer a little bit from that because you need people to stick with you. You need like an additional guy, to kind of back you up. If you have an Iron Fist or something, usually he's good because he takes some heat off of you. But Venom, he is 650 health, 6 move speed, Dark Predation, Unleash Tentacles forward to attack enemies. It's that little quad cast. It hits 4 times. Do that tendril on your cursor. His ultimate is Feast of the Abyss. Burrow underground for a free movement. And after a duration or by left-clicking, devour enemies above to deal damage based on the enemy's current health and generate equivalent bonus health. So this big AoE, very similar looking to Jeff, just not quite as good as Jeff. But same idea. Go underground, eat everybody, and then you do some damage. You mostly get a ton of health. But it does, in fact, deal 50% of the target's health. So it's significant. It's definitely significant. I think that's of current. Yeah. So devour enemies to deal damage on current health. So it does an additional 40 base, but it's doing current health. It also, 100% of the damage dealt is converted into bonus health, though. So if you go in and you were a little low, and you ult, and everybody else had high health, you get a ton of shield, they're now half health, and your team can really swing that for a win. Venom is very important to watch the health percentages of who you're fighting, because he does more damage to high health enemies. He has his web swing, but then he also, based on his health percentage, the lower his health is, the greater bonus he gets for his E, which is Symbiotic Resilience, which immediately just converts 100% of his lost health into bonus health, plus another 100. So if you get low health, you pop that, you immediately have your health bar back plus 100. Dash to the target location from a certain height upon landing, damage nearby enemies, launching them up and forward, or launching them toward the landing point. Excuse me. That's a lot of reading. I can't read more than 30 minutes. So that's Frenzied Arrival. That is when you swing, you're on a wall. I always recommend climbing onto a wall, using Frenzied Arrival to go in, and then you can swing out. Because if you swing in and in Frenzied Arrival, you kind of end up in this awkward situation to where you have to use Symbiotic Resilience to live a lot of these fights. You have Cellular Corrosion, which is going to be his right click. Unleash tentacles to slow enemies within reach. Enemies unable to break free in time will suffer damage. So this is actually really good. Spell field does 5 damage, increasing to 80 if the target remains in the area for the duration. So it does 5, just, little, I don't know why it does 5, but it does 5. And then it'll hit him for 80 if you stay on top of them the whole time, while also applying a slow. And then his Alien Biology, it just allows him to wall crawl. And he can sprint on the walls, unlike some other characters that just kind of crawl on the walls, like Spider-Man. And finally, we have his team-up ability with Spider-Man and Peni. That gives him 150 max health. That is not anything to sneeze at. That is really, really good. And then you get the extra symbiote bonus for Spider-Man and Peni Parker that allows them to kind of give that explosion of symbiote, which is very strong, especially for Spider-Man now since he got buffed from the beta. Always play Venom if there's a Spider-Man, because he can then basically uppercut and Touch of Clintar and kill a squishy. It's really, really strong. I highly recommend it. I hope you watched that on double speed, because I know that was long-winded, and I don't like to hear myself talk for that long either. If you'd like content like that, give me a follow. And if you like other kind of content, drop a comment, still leave a follow so I can make that new kind of content, and we'll see you next time.